And Rob.
Back again for another session. Last time we looked at the music and the story of Mozart's opera Apollo et Hyacinthus. And today we're going to learn a little bit more about the instruments that we heard in the music. But first of all, let's warm up. You ready to warm up?
I'm always ready to warm up.
Amazing. You guys ready to warm up? Very good, very good. Shall we start by rolling our shoulders? So give them a nice little roll back, draw some circles. Oh, nice breathing there.
Oh, yeah,
Lovely.
thank you.
And should we roll them the other direction?
Yes,
Here we go. Lovely. Now, bit of a challenge. Can you roll your shoulders in different directions? So pop them up and here we go. We're drawing circles in different directions. How are you getting on there?
Do you know what? I'm slightly struggling with it.
Tricky.
And I do think I haven't quite mastered. I think this is something to work on.
It is, isn't it? I've changed my direction. See if you can change yours.
Okay, I'm going to do that. Okay.
Oh, and now
shoulders up and then you go.
Yeah, different directions.
Oh.
Very good, everyone. Right, let's make some shapes. Can you make the biggest shape with your body you can? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Careful not to hit anyone in the face. Amazing. Can you make the smallest shape with your body? Tiny, tiny, squint up your face. Amazing. And should we do the bendiest, stretchy shape? I'm excited to see your
I'm not
stretchy
sure
shape.
this is going to be my forte.
No,
Here,
oh,
okay,
me
the
neither.
bendiest.
Woo!
Okay, I'm going to try and lift my...
Bendy shape! Amazing. And go on, Rob, last shape, what should we do?
Shall we do a shape which looks a bit like a musical instrument?
Oh, nice!
So I'm going to pretend to be a guitar.
Okay, I'll be a flute.
Okay.
I'm
We've got to use our imagination. We've got to
upwards.
use our imagination, haven't we?
Here we go, there's my flute. I like that. Great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's warm up our voices next. As you can see, we've got some lovely flowers here and here. And this song is called I Like the Flowers, I Like the Daffodils. So I'm going to say the words and you guys are going to copy my amazing moves. Here we go. I like the flowers. Do you want a little flower?
I like the flowers.
I like the daffodils.
I like the daffodils.
I like the mountains.
I like the mountains.
I like the rolling hills.
I like the rolling hills.
I like the fireside.
I like the fireside.
When the lights are low.
When the lights are low.
My favourite bit, we say the words do up to way and we do our best dance moves. Bit of a dance captain here, so
Thank
watch
you.
this guy's moves. Here we go, so we go. Do up to way, do up to way.
Do up to way, do up to way.
Amazing. You guys do your own moves there. And the melody goes like this. Just going to get my little chord here. Me, then you.
Okay.
I like the flowers, I like the daffodils.
I like the flowers, I like the daffodils.
I like the mountains, I like the rolling hills.
I like the mountains, I like the rolling hills.
I like the fireside when the lights are low.
I like the fireside when the lights are low.
Singing do up to way, do up to way.
Do up to way, do up to way.
Amazing. We're going to put it all together. We're going to do it 2 times. So don't worry if you don't get it all right the first time. After 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I like the flowers, I like the daffodils, I like the mountains, I like the rolling hills, and I like the fireside when the lights are low. Do up to way, do up to way.
I like the flowers,
I like the daffodils, I like the mountains, I like the rolling hills, I like the fireside when the lights are low. Do up the way, do up the way, do up the way, do up the way.
The end.
Do you know, when we did that, I made a few little, I lost my way, and what was really great about that, and this often happens when we sort of, making music, that I lost my way, but actually, I kept an eye on Lucia, and she sort of guided me through, so thank you for that.
Just so
And sometimes I sang a slightly different version, didn't I?
True.
But hey, I would say that was improvising.
I loved it.
A bit of improvisation.
We're going to come back to that in a bit.
Brilliant.
But
Beautiful.
for now, last time we heard lots of musical instruments while we were learning about the story of Apollo at Hyacinthus. Hyacinthus, is that right? It feels wrong. Hyacinthus. I want to say hyacinthesis, but that's wrong.
No, Apollo at Hyacinthus.
Hyacinthus.
Quite hard to say. It's quite a challenge, isn't it?
It is quite hard, apparently. Anyway, we heard lots of instruments. Now, they weren't instruments that are around today. They're not modern ones. They were the instruments from Mozart's time. We call them Baroque instruments. And we're going to learn about 3 of them today. First up, we're going to meet Eva, who is going to tell us about the Baroque flute. Now, Rob, we've got a couple of things we want these guys to listen out to, don't we?
Exactly, yeah. So Eva's going to sort of tell you a few things about the flute, but while she's saying that, she's going to give you a little bit of information. We want you to think about a couple of questions. What is her instrument made of? And when was this Baroque flute, as it's called, when was it invented?
Okay, so
Think on that.
what's it made of and when was it invented?
Exactly.
Let's say hello to Emma!
Hi everyone, I'm Eva. I was so happy when Lucia and Rob asked me to show you the instrument I play, which is the Baroque flute. I bet this instrument will become your favorite one. It is made out of wood and it is a wind instrument because if we want to make a sound, we need to blow. It can play high notes and it can play low notes. As you can see, it has got a metal key and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes and then this one, which is where we blow across. The Baroque flute was invented about 300 years ago. This is long ago. So your great grandparents would have known of this flute. Mozart also knew of this flute. He actually composed his music for this instrument. I'd like to play you now an aria that it appears in the Magic Flute, which Mozart wrote, and it sounds like that. And the music carries on and on. The Baroque flute has got a tiny friend called the Baroque piccolo. Piccolo means small in Italian. Indeed, it is small, isn't it, in comparison with the Baroque flute? Look, it's half its size. Yet it has got a metal key and it has got all the holes here. And this one is exactly the same, but half the size. Shall we listen to it? Yep, sounds higher, doesn't it? Absolutely. Small instruments always make a high sound. The Baroque flute can also play in different ways, which it can help to make the music more interesting. We can do flutter tonguing with it. That means we roll our R's and we play rrrr. And we can also sing and play at the same time. That means we can do ooh, like humming. That's also a cool sound, isn't it? Absolutely. To finish with, I'd love to compare this flute, which we said it was very old, to a much newer one, which is called the modern flute. Ta-da! The modern flute. And I'm sure you've seen that one before, of course. Probably you've got friends that they play it, or you might even play yourself. And if not, I'm sure on TV at some point you've seen it, because orchestras, they play on this flute. This flute is about 150 years old. If we compare both of them, as you can see, there are lots of difference, doesn't it? This is how much the instrument developed throughout the years. So you've got the whole, it's already different a little bit. And then the materials are also different. And then you've got, the modern flute has got many keys, around 20 keys. And as you can see, it's also longer, the modern flute, than the Baroque flute. For you to hear a little bit of the difference between a Baroque and a modern flute, I will be playing you Bolero by Ravel on this instrument, so you can hear.
Thank you, Ava. My God, that was amazing. I love her flutter tongue routine. That's amazing,
that's
isn't it?
Great. And I love seeing the little Baroque piccolo. So cute.
Yeah, so who are we going to meet next?
Next up, we're going to meet Becky, another of our pals. And she plays the cello. The cello, that's right. And of course, we have a few things we want you to listen out for.
So the first thing we want you to listen out for is what is her bow hair made of? What is that made of? She does this sort of slidey thing on her cello. It goes like, it starts really low and goes really high. Now, what is that called? And also, her cello is rather old, but we want to know, where was it made?
Over to you, Becky.
Hello, my name's Becky, and I'm here on behalf of the Mozartists to share with you my cellos today. Now, I've got two here. I'm going to start with the oldest one, which comes from the Baroque era of music, just before Mozart was born. Now, this cello was made in 1769 in Piccadilly, the middle of London. And I know because there's a label that I can see by peeping through the F-hole, and it tells me it's on the back of the cello. Now, if Mozart was born in 1756, that means he would have been 13 years old in 1769. And I'd like you all just to imagine now that you are a young Mozart and you've just walked into a bustling and noisy musical salon just off Piccadilly in the middle of London. And in the corner, my cello is there, hot off the press. The varnish has just dried and it's being played by a musician. And he's just tuning up and warming up and playing a few notes. And then a snippet of music. Who was an Italian composer and a cellist himself, and he was a little bit older than Mozart, but he was around when Mozart was alive, so that could well have been something Mozart would have heard. Now, listening to the cello, you could probably hear that for a big bass instrument, it could play fairly high notes. Shall we, I'll slide my fingers up the cello in a glissando and see how high it goes. That always reminds me of an aeroplane taking off. And now we're going to slide the other way and see how low it goes. That is the bottom note on the cello. It's my C string. There we go. If I put my bow down, you can see how it sounds when I just use my fingers to pluck with pizzicato. Maybe makes the cello sound a bit more akin to a guitar or maybe a harp. Now, let's have a listen to some harmonics. If I float my fingers on the cello, I find all sorts of eerie sounds. What does this remind anyone of? It always brings to mind seagulls wheeling over a seascape, but people have said all sorts of things. Now, Mozart himself often composed very dramatic plots in his operas, and a few years ago I was lucky enough to play Don Giovanni, one of his later operas, with the Mozartists. Now, in Don Giovanni, it's about a very bad man, Don Giovanni himself, who's a sort of villain. And during the course of the opera, he murders a man. And by the end of the opera, he meets his death himself, but not before he's seen the ghost of the man that he killed. So here is a technique called tremolando, which might summon up the chilling spirit of a ghost. Or how about if I move my cello, my cello bow right over the bridge? Very, very deathly sounds from beyond the grave there. So Mozart had all sorts of ways that he could have used techniques on string instruments to underpin a dramatic plot. How about this kind of pizzicato now? That could have been used, that snapping pizzicato, for gunshot or perhaps cannon fire. So all sorts of ways that you can play around if you're going to ever compose a piece of music of your own, or even an opera, to use the cello to your own advantage. Now I'm going to show you my other instrument here, which is more of a modern cello, so you can see the difference. Now, at first glance, it's just the colour that's different, but if we look a bit closer, you can see that this modern cello has quite a lot of metal on it. So it's got metal end pin, adjusters to help me tune, a wolf note detector here, and even a metal spike underneath, which makes it quite a lot heavier. And the strings themselves are wound in metal. Now, in Mozart's time, they didn't put metal on any instruments at all. They just used wood and other natural materials. So the back is my favourite. Reminds me of a mackerel sky. We've got a wooden end pin, no adjusters at all, a wooden knob at the end, and I just tune the cello using these boxwood pegs here. And the strings themselves are made of another natural material that come from an animal. Now, it's made out of sheep's guts. And there's another part of an animal here on my bow. The tail of a horse is the bow hair. There we go. Now I'm going to show you the difference between these two bows as well. On top is the Baroque bow, and you can see by the shape that the stick is more arched, more like a bow and arrow in fact. And the more modern bow has evolved to have a completely different curve, this way, more of a smile shape. And that creates power all the way to the tip for the sound. So if I put my Baroque cello away and grab my other cello, you'll be able to hear the difference in sound. I'm going to finish now by playing you a little extract from a piece by a much more recent composer, Aaron Minsky, who is an American composer, and this is a little piece called Broadway. Thank you all for listening.
Wow, thanks, Becky. That was great. I mean, I love that sort of chilling, eerie effect on the cello, wasn't it? It's like really sort of atmosphere. It felt like it was in some kind of a sort of haunted Halloween movie, didn't it?
Yeah, loved it.
So we're meeting 3 instrumentalists, is that right?
We are.
Who's the third?
Our last instrumentalist is Katarzyna. Katarzyna plays an instrument called the harpsichord, a bit like an old-fashioned piano, but she's going to tell you more about that. Rob, what are we listening out for?
Well, I'm kind of intrigued to know what you guys think of the instrument. The sound is very distinctive. I'm kind of intrigued to know like how it makes you feel, whether maybe the sound surprises you in some way. Now, I tell you, the harpsichord it makes some interesting sounds, and she uses sort of effects on the harpsichord. I would love to know, or I'd like you to think about how she does that on her harpsichord. And finally, when she opens our harpsichord up, you will see some amazing pictures and some amazing artwork, and we want to know what you see. Describe it. Love to know.
Exactly. I think there are like some fruits and maybe animals, so see if you can see what they are.
Yeah.
my name is Katarzyna, and this is Anuka, who just played for you Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on the harpsichord. This is my instrument called a harpsichord, and as you can see, it looks a little bit like piano. It's because it's a grandfather of piano. Harpsichords were very popular 300 years ago, and mine is a copy of French instrument from 1749, built about 10 years ago by Andrew Garlick in Somerset. I will tell you more about it, but first I would like to show you how it sounds like. I would like to play a piece by Mozart, which he wrote when he was only 8 years old, and he was here in London then. So you see, I have two keyboards here. I played only on the bottom manual, but I was connecting both actually so that it sounded a little bit louder. So now I can disconnect and show you how the bottom register sounds like. It's a little bit softer than I played in the piece, isn't it? And then the upper manual has slightly different color, a little bit more nasal. I have also two more colors I can show you here on this instrument, and one of them is called a buff stop or lute stop, which you can use for some special effects. And also I have here a so-called four stop, which is including extra set of strings to make things even louder. So you can use it in very dramatic moments in the opera, for example. You may be wondering why the harpsichord sounds completely differently than the piano. It's because of its mechanism. In the piano, when you press the key, the hammer hits the string. And on the harpsichord, we don't have the hammers, but we have the jacks. So when I press the key, the jack is jumping and plucking the string with this little piece of plectrum. Originally, back then, 300 years ago, it was made of bird's feathers, but these days we use delrin, which is a type of plastic. And this piece of cloth here is a damper, which is muting the string afterwards. Now I would like to show you a little bit of the inside of the harpsichord. As you can see, it's very colorful and beautifully decorated on the lid, but also here in front. And inside, on the soundboard, you can see beautiful flowers. There is a pear. And look at these beautiful birds. And also the rosette.
Wasn't Katarzyna's harpsichord beautiful?
Oh my god, the artwork, it was so intricate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Those colours were so bold and vivid.
Really, really beautiful. We've got one more thing we're going to do before we say goodbye to you, and that is listen to all those three instruments together, and we're going to listen to them while we sing the song that we learnt at the beginning of this session, which was I like the flowers, I like the daffodils. So for this, we're going to split into two teams. We're going to have Team Lucia, whoop, 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 and
Team Rob, oh yes.
Exactly. So you might want to pause this video now and split your group into two groups, Team Lucia and Team Rob. Great. Okay, so we're in two teams now, and we're going to start by singing our song in unison. What does that mean, Rob?
That means all together as one.
Exactly, we sing it all together, and then Team Lucia are going to sing it 2 times through, followed by Team Rob. We're going to sing it in a round, which means Team Lucia starts, and then Team Rob sings the same song, but starting a little bit later. 2 times through. Are you ready, everyone? Are you ready?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I'm
here we
always
go.
ready, Lucia.
I know,
Always
I know.
ready.
Here we go, everyone. Listen to those instruments. All together now. Here we go.
I like the flowers, I like the daffodils, I like the mountains, I like the rolling hills, and I like the fireside when the lights are low. Do up the way, do up the way.
I like the flowers, I like the daffodils,
I like the flowers, I like the daffodils, I like the mountains, I like the rolling hills, and I like the fireside when the lights are low. Do up the way, do up the way. I like the flowers, I like the daffodils, I like the mountains, I like the rolling hills, and I like the fireside when the lights are low. Do up the way, do up the way, do up the way.
Yay! Well done, everyone. Well done, well done.
We nailed it, we nailed
High
it.
five. Oh yeah, we are so cool, Rob. We are so cool. Anyway, that is the end of our 3rd workshop. We really hope you've enjoyed learning about Mozart, some of his music, and about his life in London as well. If you want, you can go and discover more music by Mozart because he wrote loads of it.
He wrote over 600 pieces. There's so
Whoa.
much music to discover of his.
Yeah, so go onto Spotify or YouTube, iTunes, and find out some more of his music. Bye, everyone!
Bye-bye.